Okay, we're live. Let some
Hey,
people
good morning.
join.
Morning, everybody.
You've had some coffee. You're up. You're peppy. You have some pep in your step.
I'm telling you, it's had days half over. It's 7:02. I'm sure everybody in Hawaii is tuning in right now, right?
That's 7:02 in Montana. It's 9:02 on the East Coast where I am.
Yeah, well, see what I mean? Days more than half over there. So
Yeah, I know. You start a podcast with a farmer and you get to know early mornings, I guess.
that's part
Um,
of the
we,
day. That's part of the day.
we want to welcome everyone to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. We thought we would just hop on here for a little baby episode, a little baby check-in about some not so little news. And so I have a whole lot of notes and kind of because this story is so massive and there's so much context to understand. We want to say hi to Mary Ellen from Rhode Island watching. Thanks, Mary Ellen. I'm glad you're here. There's so much to understand about this story and background and history. And so I'm going to start going through, and Senator, you just tune in whenever you want, okay?
Sounds good to me. That's what I usually do. So go
You
ahead.
just interrupt me,
Yeah.
okay? All right. So well, let me just lay this out. I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm filling in on Scripps News this week. And so all day yesterday, it was being reported, and we talked about it in our Substack Live, that MSNBC had reported Wednesday night that there was this effort to get a grand jury indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. And so we were kind of like watching that all day yesterday, trying to track that down. Well, last night, as I was at dinner, it came down. A federal grand jury indicted former FBI Director James Comey. This is the first time that a former FBI director has been indicted with criminal charges. And you'll remember, I mean, he has been the subject of President Trump's ire for a very, very long time. He was fired from the first administration over, the investigation into the whole Russia, what Trump called the Russia hoax. And a lot of people also partially blame at least, James Comey for Hillary Clinton's 2016 loss because he announced a new investigation into her emails 11 days before the election. You want to jump in here? Anything you want to say?
Well, no, I mean, I just think that he's a guy that everybody can dislike. I mean, he's kind of like a basketball referee. Every call you make, you piss off half the crowd. And he made the calls. He's not somebody that, quite frankly, I thought was eligible for a grand jury indictment. But part of this is that the big red flag that comes up for me is that somebody in the Department of Justice was put on this case, and that lawyer said there's not grounds here, and they said you either do it or you're going to get canned, which is a lot disturbing to me. I mean, the bottom line is you can't use law enforcement for political purposes. Otherwise, we've got a country that's unrecognizable, quite frankly. Um,
So
just
you're talking about this U.S. attorney
yeah,
in Virginia,
yeah,
and his name is Eric Siebert.
yep.
So President Trump has been demanding that Comey be charged with crimes. This has been a public demand on True Social, on camera. So last week, while you were in Europe having fun,
Working,
working,
work, baby.
last week there was a social media post on True Social, and it was later deleted, but it was seemingly addressed to Attorney General Pam Bondi. And he really just pressured her to go after not only Comey, but Senator Adam Schiff, Letitia James. And he said there's a great case and that they impeached him twice and indicted him 5 times, and justice must be served. But he mentioned Comey by name. Also in that post, he mentioned Eric Siebert. Trump called him a rhino, a woke rhino, who told the media there was no case. And we know he was mad that 2 Democrats signed on to him being U.S. attorney. And so then Trump replaced him this week with a woman named Lindsay Halligan. She's a former White House aide and a former, or she was an insurance attorney. And she has no prosecutorial experience. So what you're talking about is that ABC News has been digging into this, and they had sources that came to them and said there was a 2-month long investigation into James Comey, and that prosecutors couldn't find enough evidence to bring an indictment, but also bring a conviction, which is what you ultimately want if you bring an indictment. And so sources told ABC News that this was all laid out in a memo that was presented to the new acting U.S. attorney, Lindsay Halligan, this week. And a legal analyst I interviewed yesterday told me that it's very atypical to see what's happening. And he said it should be frightening to everyone, red and blue.
Yeah. Well, I think that's entirely the point. When you're taking the largest law enforcement agency in the country, basically, and using it against your political enemies, when you take and you sue news media for the job they do reporting, when you threaten suit when Jimmy Kimmel comes back on the air, all this stuff, all this stuff just reeks of authoritarianism, and it's not healthy, and it's not good for democracy. And my question to you, Maurice, is what role does Congress play in this? Does Congress play any role whatsoever, or do they just continue to sit on their hands?
I don't know. I will be curious to see what the reactions are today from members of Congress. There was the one charge of giving false statements, and that comes with a 5-year possible
But
sentence.
who makes a decision on false statements? Does President Trump say, well, he made a false statement based on President Trump's view of the world because he just said he
Well,
settled 7 wars in front of the UN, for God's sakes? Or is this does he get an opportunity to be in front of his peers? What's
so
I'm not a attorney,
this is
so I
gonna go
don't.
to trial. This is gonna go to trial. This
So
is
there
a
will be there
criminal
will be
trial.
a jury of of his peers that will make a decision. Hopefully, those folks will be um, competent and not part of the cult.
Well, some of my questions for attorneys yesterday included all of this social media stuff because I've covered a lot of criminal cases over the years, and I have been in a lot of courtrooms where a defendant asks for a change of venue, just a change of venue over
Yeah.
um, so much attention and not being able to get a fair trial. I mean, this is like, the president of the United States. I mean, yesterday he put another post out that said, "Justice in America, one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI." So, I mean, he's this, that's like, how can he, I do question how they're going to go after that. Go ahead.
Well, I mean the same thing. Very, very similar circumstances with John Bolton, who's been on our podcast. John Bolton is not somebody who I gravitated. My values didn't gravitate toward what he was doing, especially during the years with the war. But by the same token, you just can't have the president of the United States say he's a bad guy, and that's just good enough for being a bad guy. That's not how the system is supposed to work. Hey, look, if Jim Comey screwed up and he did stuff bad, then he needs to be held accountable. And the same thing with John Bolton. But the fact that they couldn't find any evidence and they had to go can a U.S. attorney to get him to take this case up does not show me that they have a case that is based in merit.
So, we'll just say Trump says that he fired that U.S. attorney. Eric Siebert says that he resigned. So, I
Okay,
don't know
well,
the full
there,
details,
Eric,
but he
well,
replaced him. He
we'll go
replaced him.
with the point that he resigned. But why did he
Yeah,
resign? He resigned because they didn't have enough evidence. Same
yeah.
same difference. It's kind of like being laid off versus fired. You know what I mean from Scripps. And so You got laid off, you didn't get fired. I get that. I'm okay with saying that the people of Montana fired me from the U.S. Senate job. I'm all right with that. Okay, I can live with
And
that.
you did yours wasn't because of a budget, so
Yeah, well, that's what they told you. Okay.
yeah, and that's true. That's fair. That's what they told me. Who knows? But so okay, there's more here. There's even more here. Pam Bondi said this. Today's indictment reflects that this DOJ's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people.
Well, tell me how he misled. I mean, I happened to be in the Senate while he was in 2020 when he was. I'm on a judiciary committee. I'm not on any of those fun committees that deal with those kind of issues.
Mm,
But let's figure out what he did
yeah.
and what he said and go from there. Um, you know.
So the grand jury to get a grand jury indictment, it's a very low standard. They just need reasonable cause. They don't need to prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt. Hearsay is allowed at the federal level, so someone can basically go in and say, "This is what I saw." So getting going to trial is going to be different. And the attorneys I spoke with yesterday said, proving perjury is very hard to do because they have to establish that he knowingly lied.
Yeah.
And that hearing that is being discussed here, it was a 4-hour hearing, I think. So there's a lot that was said there. And there's a lot about timing here. I want to read though what Comey said. He went on shortly after this came down. He posted a video and he said that I'll read it verbatim, quote, "My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of the tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends on it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system. I'm innocent, so let's have a trial and keep the faith."
Yeah.
So we'll see how this all plays out in trial. But yeah,
And
there's a lot.
and I will say he is correct in that in the statement he made. I will say this: Jim Comey probably has some assets available to him so he can fight this. What if this is done to somebody who is
Mm.
an ordinary person that doesn't have a lot of money to spend? I mean, this is just a really bad precedent. But we'll see. We'll see what's going on with the court case and see how it goes. Innocent until proven guilty. Um, but I agree. The Department of Justice being used for political purposes is not only disturbing; it's flat fucking dangerous.
We will see. And I think you make a good point, though. I mean, he's very much been tried in the court of public opinion
Yep.
by the president. And so we'll see how that muddies things up and where this goes forward. I think a lot will be revealed both today and into next week. And I think it's also, we know the timing here is important because the statute of limitations runs out after 5 years, which is next week. So they had to do this before next week if they were going to do it.
Yep.
But I also think there's something about, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but Jeffrey Epstein.
So let me tell you something. A person near and dear to me said yesterday, and this is true. He said,
Mm.
We need to get the Epstein stuff behind us because the president continues to do just bizarre shit to try to pivot off of Epstein." And he's right. Take a look at what he's done in the last week. Um, Hell, he was going to sue the people at the UN because the escalator didn't work, for God's sake. And maybe he's going to do it. I don't know. I mean, I just went through airports and those little belts that transport you. There was a couple of those that weren't working. Hell, I got case for a suit right there. They
You
weren't
had to
working.
walk
You
on your
could walk
own?
on them, but they weren't rolling. Which is a tremendous disadvantage for an old guy like me. So it's amazing. It's amazing the stuff that comes out of his mouth. And what's really amazing is the supporters go, "Yeah, that's okay. What the hell? That's all right." The place that is incredibly anti-litigious, that's all right. Go ahead, do it. Use the federal government as your lawyer and just sue anybody you want. It's I don't know, man. At some point in time, you got to stay engaged. You got to support the infrastructure that's out there. But man, the infrastructure is falling apart. And now we've got
Yes.
we've got Hegseth that's calling all the military people to Virginia, all the brass. Virginia, I don't know why, but I mean this is another thing to pivot off of Epstein, in my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah, we will see what's going on. Hopefully, we get more information about that. There is, when I bring up Epstein, the reason I say that is because this week, on Tuesday, there was a special election in Arizona. A
Yeah,
Democrat won, and it gave the House basically that as long as nobody backs out, a signature, the last signature they needed to demand a floor vote to release the Epstein files. Now, that's just the House. It would have to get through the Senate. It would have to be signed by I mean, there's a lot of steps there, but it is one more step here in that whole saga. But there is one other story I wanted to talk to you about, and it's over this continuing resolution and the showdown over this, to basically come to an agreement by Tuesday, or else the federal government will shut
shuts
down
down.
on Wednesday.
Yep.
So there are new threats on this, though, coming from the administration, right? I mean, we see that. How many times have I covered a government shutdown? My goodness, or the threat of one over the last 20 years. And we always see this. This is the Democrats shutting the government down, or this is the Republicans shutting the government down. And there's a blame game on both sides.
Yep.
Right now, though, they're adding a little bit more. The administration is adding new threats. So earlier this week, a memo was leaked to multiple outlets, including Punchbowl News here on the Hill. And it said that if Democrats don't agree to this measure, that the government is going to just straight up start firing employees, not
Yep.
furlough, just fire them.
Yeah. So here's the deal. First of all, that nobody's talking about. Um, Keeping the government open is really important. But a CR sucks. Okay. No planning for the future. No way to build. Tons of uncertainty for everything, including our military. So let's get that straight. Just keeping the government open is a pretty goddamn low bar. Okay. Secondly, government provides services. Okay. So you can go in and you can wholesale fire people, but that means services won't be rendered. And they saw that with Doge, by the way. And and quite frankly, the atomic storage was a prime example. The nuclear storage facility. They fire these people. Well, who's going to be watching the nuclear Iranian? And 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 the truth is that you can say that you're just going to go out and fire people, but man, oh man, that just means you're just going to shut down services. That means that essential service. Look, I'm a farmer. Does that mean they shut down the FSA offices? They're going to start firing people. I can tell you, they need more. They don't need less. But they're going to fire people, and that's going to be okay. They're going to fire. Look, we don't have much trade anyway, but they're going to fire all the folks who do the trade work to ship exports, which is really critical to our economy, and one of the reasons our economy is heading backwards. Are they? What are they going to do? Are they just going to take food out of the people who really need help buying food? And which is another problem that's just flat stupid. Okay, so they can threaten to do all this stuff, but you fire these folks, it has consequences. And the other thing I'll say, and I said this yesterday, is that these people will go find another job. They're capable people. Then when they find another job, you're not going to be able to hire them back. And now you're in a boat where you got a bunch of people who don't know what the hell they're doing, which is pretty common in this administration, trying to deliver services, and they can't.
And
So
I think
the
too about hiring.
and the last thing I will say is this, and I'm sorry to go off on this tirade,
You're good. You're
but
good.
but Republicans control the House, Republicans control the Senate, Republicans control the president. If they want to shut the government down, they can, and they will. If they want to keep the government open, they can, and they should. So to say this is on Democrats, give me a break. If they controlled one of the houses, you could say that with a straight face. But you can't even begin to say that with a straight face and say, oh, you know what? Government shut down because Democrats don't do shit. Let's be honest. They got no say in any of this stuff. It's
Well,
crazy.
I think that's their move right now is they're trying to have a say, right? They're trying to get
Yeah, they're
something
trying.
back. And
Look. Trump won't even meet with Schumer and Haim. So this is.
Hakeem Jeffries.
It's early in the morning. My tongue isn't working yet. All right. Haim, Jeff. I should say Schumer and Jeffries. I should have said
Yeah,
Chuck. Keep
Chuck
the.
and Hakeem. Yeah. But I do think that so let's just spell that out though for people who aren't following along. So the Democrats are saying, hey, we got to do something about these Medicare, Medicaid cuts and healthcare, basically, because they're worried about people getting kicked off their healthcare and costs of that. And so that's what they want to meet about. And the meetings aren't happening. But I do want to ask you
Well, look.
because
Let me say
yeah.
this on that front. These small hospitals, many are in rural areas. Many are absolutely Republican, if not all. That's who the Democrats are fighting for right now. Not these people didn't elect Democrats; they elected Republicans, and the Democrats are out there looking out for them.
Hmm.
So the administration ought to figure that out. I mean, these small rural hospitals close, and rural America's done. No, there'll be nobody living out here.
I want you to just because we we get in our jargon. And so for people who think this is confusing, and I'm one of them for sure, this budget process, would you explain to us the difference between a budget and a CR? Like
Yeah,
explain it to me like you're talking to my 13-year-old
yeah.
old son.
Typically what would be done is each one of the appropriations committees that deal with health, that deal with defense, that deal with veterans, that deal with housing, they all have their budget. Okay. And they, over the last year, they would have been putting together a set of numbers that would support those programs. Okay. Some of the numbers, usually they're plussed up, but some of the numbers could be reduced. Okay. That's Congress's job. It would pass the House and the Senate before the end of September 30th, and the president would sign it. And then you would have a full year of funding that, especially folks like the military, can say, okay, we're going to spend this area and then we're going to put some dollars over here, whether that's in space or
Mhm.
whether that's in submarines or airplanes or wherever it is, or, increasing troop pay. A lot of that's dictated in those budgets. So when you don't have that passing the House and the Senate, and signed by the president, then you have to do a stopgap measure, which is a CR, a continuing resolution, which basically goes for a series of weeks or months until you can get that budget done. There's no talk of even the Congress doing their damn job here, by the way. But the president's saying, here's what we want in it. And by the way, you guys vote for it. I don't see the fingerprints of Congress on this much at all. And then Congress has to vote for it. If that CR does not pass, and if you didn't have that work done to get that budget passed, then there's no funding for the government and it shuts down. And then what you'll see people standing up and saying, "Oh God, we've got to fund our military." So they'll put a few $100 million, $1 billion to the military. "Oh God, we got to fund our veterans." So they'll put some money there. "Oh God, we got to have farm subsidies." So they'll put some money there. And usually who gets left out on this whole picture is the folks who need assistance with food security, the folks who need
Mhm.
assistance with heating, the social safety net that's out there for folks who aren't lucky enough to be born to the right set of parents,
Yeah.
who the folks who have to work two jobs to make things survive, sometimes three, four, five jobs to make their budget work, and those are the people who usually get ended up shortchanged. But the bottom line is this: when they say we're passing a CR, that's not a budget that has been put a lot of thought into. That's not
That's just kicking the
saying, for
can down
instance,
the road.
that's just kicking a damn can down the road. And it's really no way to run a government, quite frankly. It's very bad. But yet now we're not even talking about a full year budget. Okay. I mean, I was pissed last year because when the Democrats had control, we could have got that budget done for a full year, and we didn't do it. And Susan Collins, who was my ranking member on defense approach, and we had a budget that we had talked to all the service agencies, we had talked to the folks out who provide service for the military. All that stuff is done throughout that process of the year. But now none of that stuff's being done. None of it.
Hmm.
It's just like throw your hands up. There's not going to be a budget. We're going to let the president dictate everything. And that's why I say Congress needs to get off their ass and do some work or resign and go home because you're not doing what the people elect you to do. You're not doing what the Constitution tells you to do. You're just laying around saying, yes, sir, and how high do I have to jump? And that's it.
There's a lot there. Okay, lastly, before I let you go, I said this was going to be a baby episode, and we've gone on for a little bit, but I want to ask you because there are new tariffs announced yesterday on pharmaceuticals. 100% tariff starting October 1st,
Mm.
unless there's basically a deal to build a manufacturing plant in the U.S. So more tariff threats.
So, look, I think pharmaceuticals should be manufactured here. I think that's a smart thing to do. Uh, Pharmaceuticals are important, unlike RFK the third says, but they're very important. My wife went through breast cancer without pharmaceuticals. Who knows what would have happened? They're amazing, but they need to be built here. Truthfully, they need to be manufactured here. So I agree with that. In the meantime, they better have a damn plan because who pays for tariffs? We do. Not the country it comes from. We do. Another one of the fallacies of the president thinks in his own mind that other countries pay those tariffs. They don't. And so if those pharmaceuticals that the tariffs are applied to, and I don't know if they're across the board or if they're just on Tylenol, I don't know, but if they're across the board, then a lot of these treatments, like cancer treatments, are really important. They you're going to make it so people can't get the pharmaceuticals to live, and they will die. And so there better be a plan for that. But look, with chips, we gave incentives. We, the federal government, gave incentives to bring those plants back here. Now, when President Trump got into power, he said, "Well, you know what, Intel, we're going to take 10% of your company because we gave you incentives to build chips here." I sure as shit hope he doesn't do that again, because quite frankly, that's socialism. That is flat out socialism. And people shouldn't be accepting it. At least in my book, I'm not going to accept it. And so, look, on one hand, he's right. We should be building pharmaceuticals here. On the other hand, if it's the American consumer that is sick, that has to pay for that price for those tariffs, which I believe is going to be the case, then once again, he's misguided in the method he wants to get the pharmaceuticals manufactured over here by.
Yeah, so he said that, I mean, it's any imported pharmaceutical product, and um, he said that there will be no tariff on them, though, if construction has started on, building a manufacturing plant here. But I mean, that can take time. I mean, you can't can't just say, okay, well, I'm going to start
When
building
did
my.
excuse me for not knowing this, when do the tariffs go into effect? 1st October?
Yep, next week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
You better
just
go out to the farm and
you
start
know,
digging.
I just want to tell you, and I want all the listeners out there, viewers, this guy says he's a businessman, but man, he doesn't exhibit any of the qualities of somebody that's been successful in business exhibits. None, none, zero. If my grandfather would have done what he's done, we would not be on the farm today. If my folks would have done what he's done, we would not be on the farm today. If I would have done what he'd done, I would have lost the farm. The business techniques this guy has is make bad decisions, and then if somebody challenges you, take them to court. What a bunch of bullshit.
It looks like some drug makers are taking this seriously, and there have been plans announced to build some manufacturing facilities like Eli Lilly. But yeah, I mean, it's just unclear if the threats, and we'll see what
Yeah,
happens. We've seen.
I just don't get. I think it's easier to attract business and people with honey than it is vinegar, and I see a lot of vinegar in this stuff.
Okay, well, I gotta go, but
So do I. I got to put a fan in an air vac. So
oh,
yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah,
what?
Charlotte and I. Now here's my day, man. Charlotte and I, my wife of 48 years, God bless her. We're gonna replace this fan. It's pretty big. It's like 3 feet. It sucks
Oh,
rain out of a bin and puts it in the truck. Well, my son works on a Jeep that he's doing pro bono for the Rotary Club here in
oh, that's
Texas.
nice.
If anybody out there wants to buy a ticket for a '59 Willys pickup Jeep. Yeah, it'll be good. It's all in
I
parts,
want to
and
buy a tip.
it's been in parts in my shop for a year. So I said to Sean, I said, you just get that damn thing painted and get it put back together. I'll deal with the farming stuff because the pressure's off because harvest is over and we're not going to see it any winter. So
Have you put some pressure on Charlotte though to come on the show because Charlotte is the funny tester.
yeah, she's a lot more fun than I am. And she's a hell of a lot better cook, and my physique shows that. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna get her. Uh,
Uh
I keep my son and I keep telling her she needs to write a cookbook because she's got some great recipes, but she won't even do that. I mean, I think it's you.
oh, like she does.
Yeah.
You like I'm the problem.
Well, see, she thinks you were fired and not laid off, and she doesn't want to go on a show with somebody who was fired. Okay.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, but she would be on with you.
Well, you didn't tell her that. And you probably shouldn't because that'll really disqualify her. But
Okay,
I just
quickly.
before we go, I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. Hopefully, it wasn't as confusing as I made it. Okay.
No, I think it was great. I think this stuff gets complex and confusing and a lot of jargon is thrown around and it's always my goal to try to help even myself understand things better in simple ways because there's a lot going on and it's hard to break it all down. And so I thank you for giving us your expertise uh, behind the scenes from the Senate. But tell me about your hat, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
It's a bunch of conservation folks who got together. I
Oh,
don't remember why I got this, and it's I think there's
Trout Unlimited.
yeah,
And what's
TU
your
and
hat?
RMEF. I don't know what's the top one. What's this one up here?
I don't know. You're there. I'm a
Kinross.
Kinross.
All right. Yeah. So it's all good.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you to Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. And we'll figure out our next episode and we'll let you know what it's going to be. We don't know.
It's all good. Well, we got to get a hold of Angus King. We got to get Angus on. Talk to you later.
I'll bug him again. Bye, guys.